Day 13. Genesis 37 to 39. Genesis chapter 37. Joseph's dreams. He is sold by his brethren and carried into Egypt. And Jacob dwelt in the land of Canaan, wherein his father sojourned. And these are his generations. Joseph, when he was 16 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren, being but a boy, and he was with the sons of Balaam, and he was out with his father's wives, and he accused his brethren to his father's most wicked crime. Now Israel loved Joseph above all his sons, because he had him in his old age, and he made him a coat of divers colors. And his brethren, seeing that he was loved by his father, more than all his sons, hated him, and could not speak peaceably to him. Now it fell out also that he told his brethren a dream that he had dreamed, which occasioned them to hate him the more. A dream. These dreams of Joseph were propheticum, and sent from God, as were also those which he interpreted, general, 40 and 40. Otherwise, generally speaking, the observing of dreams is condemned in the Scripture as superstitious and sinful. See Jude 18, 10 Eccle 34, 23. And he said to them, Hear my dream which I dreamed. I thought we were binding sheaves in the field, and my sheaf arose as it were, and stood, and your sheaf standing about bowed down before my sheaf. His brethren answered, Shalt thou be our king? Or shall we be subject to thy dominion? Therefore this matter of his dreams and words ministered nourishment to their envy and hatred. He dreamed also another dream, which he told his brethren, saying, I saw in a dream, as it were the sun, and the moon, and 11 stars worshipping me. And when he had told this to his father and brethren, his father rebuked him and said, What meaneth this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren worship thee in error? Worship. This word is not used to signify divine worship, but an inferior veneration expressed by the bowing of the body, and that, according to the manner of the eastern nations, down to the ground. His brethren therefore envied him, but his father considered the thing with himself. And when his brethren abode in Shechem, feeding their father's flocks, Israel said to him, Thy brethren feed the sheep in Shechem, come, I will send thee to them. And when he answered, I am ready, he said to him, Come, and see if all things be well with thy brethren and the cattle, and bring me word again what is dear. So being sent from the vale of Hebron, he came to Shechem, and a man found him there wandering in the field, and asked what he sought. But he answered, I seek my brethren, tell me where they feed the flocks. And the man said to him, They are departed from this place, for I heard them say, Let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went forward after his brethren, and found them in Dothan. And when they saw him afar off, before he came nigh them, they thought to kill him, and said one to another, Behold, a dreamer cometh. Come, let us kill him, and cast him into some old pit. And we will say, Some evil beast hath devoured him, and then it shall appear what his dreams avail him. And Reuben, hearing this, endeavored to deliver him out of their hand, and said, Do not take away his life, nor shed his blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and keep your hands harmless. Now he said this, being desirous to deliver him out of the hands, and to restore him to his father. And as soon as he came to his brethren, the fourth stripped him of his outside coat that was of divers colors, and cast him into an old pit where there was no water. And sitting down to eat bread, they saw some Ishmaelites on their way coming from Calad, with the camels, carrying spices, and balm, and myrrh to Egypt. And Jude said to his brethren, What will it profit us to kill our brother, and conceal his blood? It is better that he be sold to the Ishmaelites, and that our hands be not defiled, for he is our brother in our flesh. His brethren agreed to his words. And when the Midianite merchants passed by, they drew him out of the pit, and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they led him into Egypt. And Reuben, returning to the pit, found not the boy, and rending his garments, he went to the brethren, and said, The boy doth not appear, and whither shall I go? And they took his coat, and dipped it in the blood of a kid, which they had killed, sending some to carry it to their father, and to say, This we have found, see whether it be thy son's coat, or not. And the father, acknowledging it, said, It is my son's coat, an evil wild beast hath eaten him, a beast hath devoured Joseph. And tearing his garments, he put on sackcloth, mourning for his son a long time. And all his children being gathered together to comfort the father in his sorrow, he would not receive comfort, but said, I will go down to my son into hell mourning. And whilst he continued weeping, into hell. That is, into limbo, the place where the souls of the just were received before the death of our Redeemer. For allowing that the word hell sometimes is taken for the grave, it cannot be so taken in this place, since Jacob did not believe his son to be in the grave, whom he supposed to be devoured by a wild beast, and therefore could not mean to go down to him thither, but certainly meant a place of rest where he believed his soul to be. The Midianites sold Joseph in Egypt to Potiphar, an eunuch of Pharaoh, captain of the soldiers. An eunuch. This word sometimes signifies a chamberlain, courtier, or officer of the king, and so it is taken in this place. Genesis chapter 38. The sons of Judah, the death of Hur-and-Onan, the birth of Pharez and Zara. At that time Judah went down from his brethren, and turned into a certain Odolamite named Harez. And he saw that the daughter of a man of Tanaan, called Seir, and taking her to wife, he went in unto her. And she conceived, and bore a son, and called his name Hur. And conceiving a corn, she bore a son, and called him Onan. She bore also a third, whom she called Selah, after whose birth she ceased to bear any more. And Judah took a wife for her, his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Hur, the firstborn of Judah, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and was slain by him. Judah, therefore, said to Onan his son, Go unto thy brother's wife, and marry her, that thou mayest raise seed to thy brother. He, knowing that the children should not be his, when he went unto his brother's wife, he spilled his seed upon the ground, lest children should be born in his brother's name. And therefore the Lord slew him, because he did a detestable thing. Wherefore Judah said to Tamar his daughter, To in-law remain a widow in thy father's house, till Selah my son grow up, for he was afraid lest he also might die, as his brethren did. She went her way, and dwelt in her father's house. And after many days were past, the daughter of Sue, the wife of Judah, died. And when he had taken comfort after his mourning, he went up to Thaddeus of Shuas of his sheep, he was the Odolamite, the shepherd of his flock. And it was told Tamar at her father to Moors come up to them as shear his sheep. And she put off the garments of her widowhood, and took a veil, and changing her dress, sat in a crossway, that leadeth to Thanes, because Selah was grown up, and she had not been married to him. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a harlot, for she had covered her face, lest she should be known. And going to her, he said, Suffer me to lie with thee, for he knew her not to be his daughter unto law. And she answered, What wilt thou give me to enjoy my company? He said, I will send thee a kid out of the flock. And when she said again, I will suffer what thou wilt, if thou give me a pledge, till thou send what thou promisest. Judah said, What wilt thou have for pledge? She answered, Thy ring and bracelet, and the stuff which thou holdest in thy hand. The woman therefore at one copulation conceived. And she rose and went her way, and putting off the apparel which she had taken, put on the garments of her widowhood. And Judah sent a cake by a shepherd, the Odolamah, that he might receive the pledge again, which he had given to the woman. But he, not finding her, asked the men of that place, Where is the woman that sat in the crossway? And when they all made answer, There was no harlot in this place, he returned to Judah, and said to him, I have not found her. Moreover, the men of that place said to me, that thou never set a harlot there. Judah said, Let her take it to herself. Surely she cannot charge us with a lie. I sent the kid which I promised, and thou didst not find her. And behold, after 3 months they told Judah, saying, Tamar, thy daughter unto law, hath played the Hamlet, and she appeared to have a big ballet. And Judah saying, Bring her out that she may be burnt. But when she was led to execution, she sent to her father unto law, saying by the man, to whom these things belong, I am a child. See whose ring, and bracelet, and staff this is. But he, acknowledging the gift, said, She is juster than I, because I did not give her to Selah, my son. However he knew her no more. And when she was ready to be brought to bed, there appeared twins in her womb, and in the very delivery of the infants, went from forth the hand, whereon the midwife tied a scarlet thread, saying, This shall come forth the first. But he, drawing back his hand, the other came forth, and the woman said, Why is the partition divided for thee? And never called his name Pharez. Theirs. That is a breach or division. Afterwards his brother came out, on whose hand was the scarlet thread, and she called his name Zara. Genesis chapter 39. Joseph hath charge of his master's house, rejecteth his mistress's solicitations, is forthwith accused by her, and cast into prison, where he hath the charge of all the prisoners. And Joseph was brought into Egypt, and Potiphar, an eunuch of Pharaoh, chief captain of the army, an Egyptian, bought him of the Ishmaelites, by whom he was brought. And the Lord was with him, and he was a prosperous man in all things, and he dwelt in his master's house, who knew very well that the Lord was with him, and made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found favor in the sight of his master, and ministered to him, and being set over all by him, he governed the house committed to him, and all things that were delivered to him. And the Lord blessed the house of the Egyptian for Joseph's sake, and multiplied all his substance, both to him and to Phyllis. Neither knew he any other thing, but the bread which he ate. And Joseph was of a beautiful countenance, and comely to behold. And after many days his mistress cast her eyes on Joseph, and said, Lie with me. But he, in no wise consenting to that wicked act, said to her, Behold, my master hath delivered all things to me, and knoweth not what he hath in his own house. Neither is there anything which is not in my power, or that he hath not delivered to me, but thee, who art his wife. How then can I do this wicked thing, and sin against my God? With such words as these day by day, both the woman was importunate with the young man, and he refused the adultery. Now it happened on a certain day that Joseph went into the house, and was doing some business, without any man with him, and she, catching the skirt of his garment, said, Lie with me. But he, leaving the garment in her hand, fled, and went out. And when the woman saw the garment in her hands, and herself disregarded, she called to her the men of her aunts, and said to them, See, he called in a Hebrew to abuse us. He came unto me to lie with me, and when I cried out, and he heard my voice, he left the garment that I held, and got him out. For a proof therefore for fidelity, she kept the garment, and showed it to her husband when he returned home, a proof of her fidelity. Or an argument to gain credit, argument of hated. And said, The Hebrew servant, whom thou hast brought, came to me to abuse me. And when he heard me cry, he left the garment which I held, and fled out. His master, hearing these things, and giving too much credit to his wife's words, was very angry, and cast Joseph into a prison, where the king's prisoners were kept, and easily said it. But the Lord was with Joseph, and having notes upon him, gave him favor in the sight of the chief keeper of the prison, who delivered into his hand all the prisoners that were kept in custody, and whatsoever was done was under him. Neither did he himself know anything, having committed all things to him, for the Lord was with him, and made all that he did to prosper.